It's midnight and you're watching Nightline with me, Liyana Hassanel. The headlines. Malaysia expresses concern over AUKUS Trilateral Security Pact. And Human Resources Ministry to propose free Saxo for B40 housewives. Good morning. Malaysia has expressed its concern that the security partnership involving Australia, the United Kingdom and the United States, known as AUKUS, could potentially spark a nuclear arms race in the Indo-Pacific region. The Prime Minister's office, PMO, in a statement said the stand was conveyed by Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, who had taken note of the matter. It said that at the same time, it was feared that the move would provoke other powers to also act aggressively in the region, especially in the South China Sea. The statement said that as a member nation of ASEAN, Malaysia subscribes to the principle of maintaining ASEAN as a zone of peace, freedom and neutrality, ZOPFAN. The PMO said Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri had received a telephone call from Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison on Friday, informing and explaining to Malaysia the AUKUS deal, which is aimed at helping Australia to acquire nuclear-powered submarines. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri also stressed the importance of respecting and abiding by the existing stance of Malaysia on nuclear-powered submarines operating in the country's waters, including under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea 1982 and the Southeast Asian Nuclear Weapon-Free Zone Treaty. The two leaders, the statement said, also reached agreement on renewing their joint commitment to maintain international peace and security, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. Malaysia and Australia agreed to strengthen cooperation and consultation in various aspects, including in the area of defence, under the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. The Human Resources Ministry, through the Social Security Organisation, Saxo, as well as the Women, Family and Community Development Ministry, will propose to the Cabinet to provide free Saxo protection for about 2 million B40 housewives nationwide. Its Minister Datuk Seri M. Saravanan said following discussions, the ministry saw the need to protect the group who had been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, especially when husbands, as the family's breadwinner, could not go out to work.
Tetapi terpulanglah kepada kedudukan kewangan kerajaan. Tapi saya bersama-sama pihak Perkesu telah berbincang dengan Kementerian Wanita, Datuk Seri Rina Harun, mengenai perkara ini sebab kita lihat dalam keadaan COVID ini. Apabila suami menjadi sole breadwinner, hanya suami je bekerja, isteri tak bekerja, dan dalam keadaan COVID ni suami pun tak bekerja lagi dah. Apabila isteri menghadapi penyakit-penyakit kronik, maka tiada sebarang jaringan keselamatan. Maka sebagai kerajaan prihatin, lebih mengutamakan kepada rakyat, kami telah mencadangkan supaya kerajaan menimbang permohonan kami untuk memberi perlindungan jaringan keselamatan yang percuma.
He said this after presenting Saxo benefits to the widow of the late Vijaya Kumaran, TV Rasami, in Puchong, Selangor on Saturday. Vijaya Kumaran died on May 21st after suffering brain damage following a road accident on April 12 last year. Prior to this, the deceased medical treatment, including an implant surgery amounting to 23,000 ringgit, were fully paid by Saxo. The government has spent more than 60 million ringgit in the research and development R&D programs to produce Malaysia's own COVID-19 vaccine. Science, Technology and Innovation Deputy Minister Dato' Ahmad Amzad Hashim said the move was to reduce the country's dependence on imported vaccines. So far, Malaysia has spent about 4 billion ringgit in purchasing COVID-19 vaccines. However, the country cannot continue relying on supplies from abroad. Therefore, a team of researchers from the Science, Technology and Innovation Ministry's Institute for Medical Research Malaysia, IMR, has been involved in developing the vaccines with more than 54 million ringgit spent.
Jadi bagi membolehkan kapasiti dipertingkatkan berkait dengan kajian genomik yang sangat penting di dalam pembangunan mana-mana vaksin. Dalam masa yang sama, mesti juga telah memperuntukkan 2.5 juta untuk kumpulan pengkaji pembangunan vaksin jenis mRNA yang diketuai oleh Prof. Dr. Sazali di Trilateral Universiti Malaya.
Meanwhile, 2.5 million ringgit has been allocated for vaccine development from inactivated virus at University Putra Malaysia since last year. He said this to the media after launching Tawang Community Vaccine Mobile Program in Pantai Senok, Bachok, Kelantan. Through the R&D, the ministry expects the vaccines could be produced within 2 to 5 years. In the meantime, the number of new COVID-19 cases in Malaysia dropped on Saturday, with 15,549 cases. However, Sarawak remained as the state with the highest number of new infections, with 2,929 cases, followed by Johor and Selangor. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said the latest development brings the country's COVID-19 cumulative cases to 2,082,876 cases. The number of patients at the intensive care unit were 1,165, with 689 of them in need of ventilators. He also mentioned that only 263 cases are classified as in more critical condition, while the remaining have mild symptoms. Of the 16 new clusters detected, 10 were related to workplaces. The government will continue to bear Hajj Subsidy, although the cost is expected to increase following the taxes imposed by the Saudi Arabian government. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Religious Affairs, Dato' Ahmad Marzuq Shari, said the percentage of the subsidy will also be maintained, despite the current cost has not been finalised.
Apapun subsidi itu tak ada dan kerajaan menanggung sejumlah yang besar. Kalau dulu setahun kita membelanjakan hampir 400 hingga 500 juta untuk subsidi haji ini. Barangkali kos itu juga akan dikekalkan. Cuma oleh kerana kos di sana itu lagi meningkat, maka yang baki itu terpaksa ditanggung oleh para jemaah.
He explained that the rising cost is unavoidable, considering that the Saudi Arabian government has increased the value-added tax VAT up to 15%. Following the enforcement of Standard Operating Procedure (SOP), the number of pilgrims had to be limited. He said the costs related to the Hajj will be discussed and hopefully will not burden prospective Hajj pilgrims. The Finance Ministry is working together with other ministries in finding solutions to the rising cost of chicken feed, including the possibility of providing subsidies to the chicken breeders. Finance Minister Datuk Seri Tengku Zafrul Abdul Aziz stated that the government was aware of the resulting price increase in chicken meat and would seek a fair way to stabilise its pricing.
Yang paling penting sekali ialah impak kepada pengguna. Itu adalah keutamaan kerajaan. Dia fahamkan Pak Mafi menjangkakan kenaikan harga ayam adalah sementara. Ekoran ketidaktentuan permintaan berkaitan dengan pembukaan ekonomi lah. So kita akan perhalusi cadangan-cadangan dan memperincikan bersama-sama dengan KPDHP dan juga dengan MAFI.
He said this when met by reporters after visiting the freshwater fish breeding centre in Kulai, Johor on Saturday. The visit was part of his 2-day working visit program to Johor. In other news, Datuk Seri Tengku Zafrul said the food security initiative and the agricultural sector will be some of the main points that will be the focus of 2022 budget. He said that this is in line with the government's socio-economic recovery plan, growth and restructuring in the short, medium and long term. Datuk Seri Tengku Zafrul also said that both of these sectors will lay the foundation in reducing the country's dependency on imported food in the long run.
Bagi bajet 2022, jaminan makanan, food security atau sektor dan juga sektor pertanian akan tetap diberi keutamaan dan ini saya percaya ialah untuk membina asas untuk penambahbaikan agar kita tidak terlalu bergantung kepada sumber makanan import pada jangka panjang. Mengenai belanjawan 2022 pula ataupun bajet 2022, ada insentif yang berkaitan pertanian.
He said that food security is one of the elements that the government has always emphasized on in its economic stimulus packages and 2021 budget. He added that with strong cooperation between the state and federal government will result in large-scale agriculture projects that give high impact to the economy. Datuk Seri Tengku Zafrul added that a total of 3.15 billion ringgit has been channeled to the agricultural sector through the stimulus package and 2021 budget. From that, a total of 1.75 billion ringgit has been given to farmers, breeders and fishermen for projects that are related to agriculture. As the country moves into the COVID-19 endemic phase in October, more businesses are set to reopen with higher demand from consumers. According to the Malaysian International Chamber of Commerce and Industry, MICCI, the government should seize this opportunity by creating a pro-business environment.
The moment it becomes endemic, there's going to be a pent-up demand. You saw that Langkawi fully booked,
right?
The waterfalls and stuff like that. There's a pent-up demand. So there's a surge, and you need to ride on this surge. And what we propose is this. It's almost, I wouldn't want to use the word fully as a free for all. That means you have to put in an environment, a pro-business environment, where you for a little short and a medium term, okay, you reduce all the restrictions. You let everyone just do business because people need job. The jobs give them cash.
Right.
And this cash comes from the economy. It's not from Treasury giving out handouts. We do not believe continual giving out handouts is going to be sustainable. Create a job environment. Be pro-business. Things like make it easier and less cost in doing businesses. Imports, exports, free up a lot of restrictions. Not forever, but a defined period so that there is this economic activities and the government will definitely get their revenues back through indirect taxes anyway, right? It's about an economy.
He was speaking on TV3's weekly business flagship program Money Matters on Saturday. On the 12th Malaysia Plan, 12 MP, which will be tabled on September 27th, the MICCI chief said there are two key ingredients which the roadmap needs for the country to set the development agenda through 2025. And that's as countries around the globe race to regain composure, if not a better competitive position post-COVID-19.
One is meritocracy. Meritocracy will ensure that there's competent people to execute the plans. Yeah, and the second part of it is governance. Governance will keep competent people from becoming negligent people. So without these two, and in the RMK at all, you should mention the reforming of the MACC and all this governance. More heavily, because it's only with these two, meritocracy and governance, that any plan will be successful. Otherwise, it will just stay what it is, just a plan. It's good that the Ministry of International Trade, or MOF, gives out very good credits. Good news is good news. And thankfully for MITI, because decisions to invest is years before, right? And it's great that MITI is able to convince the investors to continue with their investments. That's a good job done by the international trade. But then, one swallow doesn't a summer make, right? It's just a bit too early, you know. The sudden change in rules like that without consultation and overnight and affects everyone, it's this noise, you see, because the existing visa holders are singing praises of our conditions for them to come. But if you do changes as drastic as this and without consultation, or at least some tiered approach of ratcheting up the requirements, then it goes in better. And then for foreign investors who are thinking of coming in, then have some confidence. Great that the government did listen to us about the private industry vaccination. So the PICAS program, that was great. Selvax came in, it was great. So anyway, whatever is done is done. It's to a state where we can now start to operate. The major challenge, I would say, is this the so-called SOP, right? MICCI has always advocated that the government shouldn't be in the business of micromanaging businesses. Yeah, the businesses know how to do so. So that's why we have coined something called KISS, KISS. Yeah,
right.
Not that chairman type KISS, but our KISS is the keep it simple
Short
SOP.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Coming up, Malaysian detained in Somalia, Wisma Putra to keep tabs.
Kalau semua ejen dah pakai Iris, Mata perlukan saya lagi ke?
Semua rimau aku serang, aku masih boleh tendang. Kalau nampak jangan jengang, kalau kacau benang kami nanti dengar gendang perang. Lepas lawan yang di sini lawan yang sebelah. Kita jaga kita.
Ismail Sabri Yaakob has congratulated Commander Maritime Dr. Susanna Razali Chan on her gaining recognition from the International Maritime Rescue Federation, IMRF, as a global women's icon in the field of maritime search and rescue, MSAR. In a post on his official Facebook page, the Prime Minister said the award won by the Principal Assistant Director of the Malaysian Maritime Search and Rescue and Disaster Relief Division was a source of pride for the Malaysian family. He added that it is in fact also a source of inspiration and spirit for all quarters involved in efforts to protect the people's safety and the country's sovereignty. According to him, Dr. Susanna is the first woman in Southeast Asia to win the prestigious award. A statement on the IMRF website said Dr. Susanna was a judge runner-up for the IMRF hashtag Women in SAR Award 2021 for her dedication and impressive achievements in the field of maritime search and rescue. Iron pile or sheet pile will be put in place immediately to stop active soil movement at the landslide location in Kemensa Heights. A technical report of the landslide will also be prepared in the next 3 days, enabling the government to rectify the situation immediately. Gombak Member of Parliament Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin Ali said the immediate steps should be expedited before moving on to the hillside stabilisation work at the landslide location.
Ada keperluan untuk membina sheet pile bagi menghentikan pergerakan tanah yang berlaku semenjak semalam, dan saya bimbang dengan cuaca ketika ini. Kita tidak mahu perkara ini berulang. Dan mengikut laporan daripada MPAJ, mereka memerlukan sekurang-kurangnya RM1 juta untuk membina sheet pile bagi menghentikan pergerakan tanah.
Datuk Seri Muhammad Azmin, who is also Senior International Trade and Industry Minister, said since the area where the landslide occurred was privately owned, he hopes that the federal government would work with the local authority and the Selangor state government to help the residents. It was reported that firefighters evacuated 28 people after a landslide affected a row of terrace houses on Jalan Kemensa Heights on Friday night. The incident has affected 19 houses, including 3 bungalows involving 32 families. The Foreign Ministry is closely monitoring the detention and legal process imposed on a Malaysian man who allegedly entered Somalia to engage in the activities of the Al-Shabaab group. Its Minister, Datuk Saifuddin Abdullah, said Malaysian embassy officials in Khartoum, Sudan, had made a consular visit to ensure the welfare and health of the man, known as Ahmad Mustaqim Abdul Hamid, are taken care of.
Kedutaan Besar di Khartoum akan terus memantau perkembangan kes ini dan menghulurkan bantuan konsular yang sewajarnya kepada beliau. Kita akan memastikan supaya hak-hak dan kebajikan Encik Ahmad Mustaqim sentiasa terpelihara. Di samping memastikan beliau dibicarakan secara adil.
Datuk Saifuddin added that the ministry has also contacted his family to inform them about his condition. He added that the laws of the respective country must be respected, and the ministry may ask embassy representatives to attend his court proceedings. Datuk Saifuddin was speaking in a news conference at the Indra Mahkota Parliamentary Service Centre in Kuantan, Pahang on Saturday. Earlier, Datuk Saifuddin visited the Rafa Children's Home and Special Needs Children Care Centre and distributed mooncakes and cash assistance. After the break, US admits strike in Kabul killed 10 civilians, not Daesh militants. Details when we return.
Kalau semua ejen dah pakai iris, mata perlukan saya lagi ke?
Semua rimau aku serang, aku masih boleh tendang. Kalau nampak jangan-jangan, kalau kacau benang kami nanti dengar gendang perang. Lepas lawan yang di sini, lawan yang sebelah. Kita jaga kita.
A top general admitted that Washington had made a mistake when it launched a drone strike against suspected Daesh militants in Kabul, killing 10 civilians, including children, instead, during the frenzied final of the US pullout from Afghanistan last month. According to a US Central Command Commander, General Kenneth McKenzie, the strike, a macabre coda to the 20-year US war in Afghanistan, was meant to target a suspected Daesh operation that US intelligence had reasonable certainty aimed to attack at the Kabul airport. Previously, even as reports of civilian casualties emerged, the top US general had described the attack as righteous. McKenzie, however, admitted on Friday that he now believed it unlikely that those killed were members of the local Daesh affiliate or posed a direct threat to US forces, apologizing for what it said was a tragic mistake. Following the revelation, the US government was studying on how payments for damages could be made to the families of those killed. Meanwhile, girls were excluded from returning to secondary school in Afghanistan on Saturday after the country's new Taliban rulers ordered only boys and male teachers back to the classroom. The hardline group ousted the US-backed government last month, promising a softer brand of rule than the repressive reign in the 1990s, when women were mostly banned from education and work. But the diktat from the Education Ministry was the latest move from the new government to threaten women's rights. In a statement issued late on Friday, the ministry said all male teachers and students should attend their educational institutions on Saturday and made no mention of women teachers or girl pupils. The United Nations, in the meantime, said it was deeply worried for the future of girls' schooling in Afghanistan. Over in Australia, several police officers were wounded and hundreds of protesters were arrested in the country's second most populous city Saturday in violent clashes at an anti-lockdown march. According to authorities, over 200 arrests were made in Melbourne, and police had to use pepper spray as several hundred attendees flouted stay-at-home orders and marched through an inner-city suburb. The illegal gathering comes as the city goes through its 6th lockdown since the pandemic started, with the wider state of Victoria reporting over 500 cases of COVID-19 on Saturday. Police said 6 officers were taken to hospital after they were pelted with projectiles and trampled in clashes with a crowd of around 700 people. Earlier, police attempted to reduce access to the centre of the city, blocking roads and stopping public transport in a bid to avoid a repeat of violent scenes at a rally that drew thousands last month. But marchers then relocated, with footage from one incident showing a crowd charging through a police line as scuffles erupted along a tram route. On to sports. Yokohama F. Marinos' title suffered a huge blow on Saturday as they crashed 2-1 away to Nagoya Grampus in the J-League. Captain Shinosuke Nakatani opened the scoring for Nagoya in the 12th minute before Jakub Schurzkopf doubled the score in the second half. Kenyu Sugimoto pulled one back for Yokohama in the 72nd minute. It's now Nagoya's 4th defeat of the season and also their 2nd in 3 matches, as they remain on 65 points in the overall standings. Leaders Kawasaki Frontale are on 69 points with a game in hand. In another match, the only goal by Yuya Nakasaka helped Vissel Kobe to beat Consadole Sapporo 1-0 at Kobe Universiade Memorial Stadium. This result means Kobe lifted themselves to the 4th place on the table, becoming one of the contenders from J-League to get a spot in the AFC Champions League next year, while Mihailo Petrovic's side dropped 1 place to 11th after this defeat. The city of Paris on Saturday unveiled a monumental artwork built around an actual monument, the Arc de Triomphe, completely wrapped in silver and blue fabric. The installation, entitled Arc de Triomphe Wrapped, was conceived by late artist couple Christo and Jean-Claude in 1961, and visits will take place for almost 3 weeks. Let's take a look as we wrap up Nightline this time around. I'm Liyana Hassanel. Thank you for watching and stay safe, Malaysia.